Between 2004 and 2019, three separate tragedies unfolded across the globe, each one transforming a vacation paradise into a scene of mass death. These weren't obscure destinations or unstable war zones. They were beaches, resorts, and islands. Locations known for leisure, not for chaos. But in each case, tourists found themselves trapped in events no one expected, and few survived. This episode examines three of the most catastrophic tourist-related disasters in recent memory: the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, the 2015 beach massacre in Tunisia, and the sudden volcanic eruption on New Zealand's White Island in 2019. Each was caused by a different force, natural, man-made, or geologic, but all revealed deep cracks in how tourist safety is evaluated, communicated, and prioritized. Number 1. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. December 26, 2004, the day after Christmas. In much of the Western world, it was a time of rest and celebration. But in the Indian Ocean, something unimaginable began to unfold. At 7:58 a.m. local time, a massive undersea earthquake struck off the coast of northern Sumatra, Indonesia. Measuring between 9.1 and 9.3 in magnitude, it lasted between 8 and 10 minutes, one of the longest earthquakes ever recorded. The seismic event ruptured a 900-mile section of the Earth's crust, releasing energy equivalent to 23,000 Hiroshima-sized atomic bombs. This colossal disturbance displaced trillions of gallons of seawater, triggering a massive tsunami. Waves radiated outward at speeds up to 500 miles per hour. In deep water, they were barely noticeable. But as they approached land, they slowed and grew taller, towering over 100 feet in some areas. The tsunami struck 14 countries, including Indonesia, Thailand, Sri Lanka, India, the Maldives, and even Somalia, over 3,000 miles away. In Thailand, resort towns like Phuket, Khao Lak, and Phi Phi Island were filled with tourists. Many were walking along the beach when they noticed the ocean behaving strangely. The water had pulled far back from the shore, a phenomenon known as a drawback. With no formal tsunami education or alert systems in place, many tourists wandered down toward the exposed seabed. Minutes later, the waves arrived. Entire resorts vanished. Bungalows were flattened. Boats and buses were tossed like toys. Some travelers managed to climb trees or rooftops. Others were pulled into the current, smashed against debris, or drowned in hotel lobbies. In total, over 230,000 people died. Indonesia had the highest death toll at more than 167,000. Sri Lanka lost 35,000. Thailand reported over 5,000 deaths, with at least 2,000 of them being foreign tourists. Sweden was hit particularly hard. 543 of its citizens died, many of them families vacationing over the winter break. Germany, the UK, Australia, Finland, Norway, and Japan also suffered heavy tourist casualties. Beyond the loss of life, there was chaos. Infrastructure collapsed. Airports were overwhelmed. Identification of the dead took months. In many cases, tourists were buried in mass graves without names. The tsunami became one of the deadliest natural disasters in recorded history. It exposed how unprepared many tourist destinations were for sudden catastrophe. In response, the Indian Ocean Tsunami Warning and Mitigation System was established in 2006. Dozens of countries pledged to improve early warning capabilities and coastal evacuation planning. The event also influenced international disaster training, with a focus on hotels and tourism businesses being included in emergency frameworks. Number 2. The 2015 Sousse Beach Massacre. 11 years later, another form of terror would strike, this time man-made. On June 26, 2015, the beachfront of Sousse, Tunisia, was crowded with vacationers. It was just before noon at the Riu Imperial Marhaba Hotel. Guests were lying on loungers, sipping drinks and swimming. Among them was Saifuddin Rezgui, a 23-year-old Tunisian. He was not a guest. He was a gunman. Hidden inside his beach umbrella was a Kalashnikov-style rifle. At 11:45 a.m., he began his attack. First, he opened fire on tourists lying on the beach. Then he moved toward the pool area, into the hotel itself. Over 30 minutes, he hunted guests room to room. 38 people were killed. 30 of them were British nationals. The rest included tourists from Ireland, Belgium, Germany, Portugal, and Russia. Another 39 people were injured, many critically. Witnesses described scenes of confusion and panic. Some tourists hid in bathrooms and supply closets. Others ran into the sea to escape. Tunisian security forces were criticized for their response. It took more than half an hour to confront and kill the attacker. Later reports revealed that unarmed hotel security did not attempt to stop the shooter, and local police were stationed too far from the beach to intervene quickly. The attacker was later linked to ISIS, although he had no direct training abroad. He had been radicalized in Tunisia through local extremist networks. Just 3 months earlier, in March 2015, 22 people, mostly tourists, were killed during a separate ISIS attack at the Bardo National Museum in Tunis. Together, the two events devastated Tunisia's tourism sector. The UK Foreign Office issued a full travel ban to Tunisia. Airlines canceled flights, tour operators pulled out, tourism revenue dropped by over 70% in the following year. Hotels closed. Tens of thousands lost their jobs. An inquest in the UK found that the attack was a foreseeable risk. It also determined that the travel company, TUI, and the hotel had not done enough to warn guests about the security situation. Among the dead were 3 generations of the same British family. Some had been in Tunisia for less than 24 hours. The attack raised hard questions about how travel advisories are issued, how risk is communicated to tourists, and whether hotels in politically unstable regions can ever be truly secure. Number 3. The 2019 White Island eruption. 5 years later, another tragedy struck, this time far from any war zone or major city. The location? White Island, New Zealand. Known by its Maori name, Wakari, the island is an active marine volcano located 29 miles off the coast of New Zealand's North Island. For decades, tourists had visited the site on guided tours, walking across its moon-like surface, taking photos near vents that spewed sulfuric gas. It was marketed as a bucket list experience. On December 9, 2019, 2 tourist groups were on the island. Most had come from the Ovation of the Seas, a Royal Caribbean cruise ship docked in Tauranga. At 2:11 p.m., without significant warning, the volcano erupted. A violent explosion of ash, gas, and rock shot 12,000 feet into the air. 47 people were on or near the crater at the time. 22 were killed. The rest suffered severe burns, some covering over 80% of their bodies. The victims included Americans, Australians, Germans, Chinese nationals, and New Zealanders. Among them were teenagers, honeymooners, and entire families. Emergency response was delayed due to hazardous conditions. Rescue helicopters initially turned back. Eventually, pilots and volunteers landed on the unstable island at personal risk to evacuate the wounded. Investigations revealed that GeoNet, New Zealand's geological hazard agency, had raised the volcano's alert level to 2 just days earlier, a sign of increased activity. Level 2 meant there was moderate to heightened volcanic unrest. Still, no tours were canceled. WorkSafe New Zealand later filed charges against 13 parties, including the island's owners, the Buttle family, and White Island Tours. In 2023, a court ruled that multiple parties failed to adequately protect tourists and staff from known risks. The Buttle family was ordered to pay over $10 million in reparations. Critics argued that adventure tourism in New Zealand had outpaced regulation. Tourists were often given safety briefings but were not informed of the full risk. No one on the island had access to heat-resistant protective gear or breathing equipment. Survivors described the eruption as instantaneous. There was no time, one said. The sky just turned black. Some had to jump into the ocean to avoid the falling ash and scalding debris. The incident reignited debate over volcano tourism and whether natural hazards can ever be made safe for commercial access. The Indian Ocean tsunami, the Tunisia beach massacre, the White Island eruption. 3 different events, 3 different causes, but all happened in places marketed as safe, relaxing, even luxurious. In each case, lives were lost not just because of the initial disaster, but because of gaps in warnings, delays in response, and failures in risk communication. Over 230,000 died in the tsunami. 38 were gunned down in Tunisia. 22 were engulfed in volcanic ash in New Zealand. These tragedies serve as stark reminders that even in paradise, danger can lurk beneath the surface. As global travel continues to grow, so too must our vigilance and preparedness. Because when disaster strikes, the difference between life and death can hinge on the warnings we heed or ignore.